I remember just my body not feeling normal for that competition. And so we were talking about it, like, what did I learn from that event? And well, one thing is like how important, your preparation is up until that point. And so getting a good night rest, eating properly, all those things, those definitely I took for granted at previous tournaments. However, even with the not normal preparation for that tournament, I learned that you can dig it out and you can still perform at a high level. It just takes a lot of like mental toughness to actually perform.
Hey, what is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Off the Mat. My name is Josh Dumlin, and this is
Nicole Stratichuk.
And we just finished a tournament on the weekend. We competed, our school, we brought over 100 athletes to a tournament that had about 400 competitors. So it was a really good time. We had a great time.
Yeah, it was super fun. I mean, tournaments are always awesome. We were talking about this tournament, and the cool thing for me about this tournament in particular was just the attitudes afterwards, right? The tournament was on Saturday, but everyone was back in the dojang on Monday, already training and getting ready for the next one. Like, I just love that attitude of no matter how the tournament went for them, they were like ready to get back into training on Monday, again on Tuesday, so yesterday. So just everyone, their attitudes were awesome and they were ready to work harder, work more for the next one. There was also lots of attitudes of like, yeah, maybe they got a medal or maybe they didn't get a medal, but just the attitude of like wanting to be better for the next one, that was so cool to see and made me really proud and impressed, I guess, with our students. So
absolutely. Yeah. Always going to an event, I feel like, as an athlete, when I would go, I would learn things about myself as a competitor, what I should do better, how I should train differently and stuff like that. And then now as a coach, as an instructor and somebody who sends students to competitions, it's really interesting to be on this side, to be like, I think we need more work on, and this is what we need to do we were missing a lot of points here. We should train a little bit more of that to prepare them more for this. And so it's always kind of a cool balancing, like just trying to watch it all.
Yeah. And it's cool to, see it from this side, not as just a competitor anymore, is seeing it from the coach side or leader side part of things. So it is interesting looking at it that way. And yeah, I think when I go to the tournaments now and I see all the kids, adults too, like I know what they're going through. I understand how all the nerves, all the anxiety, all the fun, all the excitement, all of the emotions that go along with competition. And so I just get so excited for all of the athletes to experience that because it's just so memorable and learning and growing. And even though they might not understand that as kids in that moment, but I know just from my past competitive experience that there is so much going on, and I just get so excited for all the athletes.
Well, and that's just it. Like even just watching them all as they're waiting for their event, and I'm envious of it because like when we watch in particular, especially like the kids and like our son, and I see them off to the side and they're laughing with their friends and they're making new friends and they're they're goofing off, getting ready, like it's whatever they need to do to mentally prepare, and then after they're done, watching them run around the stadium, like animals, just like going crazy and just having fun, and it makes me envious of all the memories they're making. Like I've of course, and that's what this episode's about, but it's like I'm like, oh man, like they have no idea some of the things that they are, the memories that they're making right now. They have no idea that, these friends that they're making, these bonds that they're creating, the lessons they're learning, both in the ring and out of the ring too. Like, at the hotel, at the water slides, and, the driving and the going to the event, the training for the event, all of it is just it's so cool.
Yeah, the other cool thing that was, even coming back to the dojang a couple days after the tournament, it was cool because then kind of the day of the tournament is so busy, right? We don't quite know how everybody did, but the next few days at the dojang back to classes, we get to kind of hear how everyone did and the athletes get to hear how each other did, and just seeing them so excited for their teammates as well. That is really cool to say, makes me really proud to be, part of this school where we genuinely care about each other and get super excited for each other. So that it was really cool to see as well.
Since we had just finished this tournament and, we came back and we were talking about all of the stuff that happened and everything, we thought we would do an episode all about some of our favorite events. So that's what we wanted to talk about today, was the experiences we've had at tournaments as well. Cause, though we might not compete like we used to, all of those memories that we had, and as I said, the memories that I'm excited for all of these kids to make on their own. We thought we would share some of our most memorable tournament moments, or events, or sessions, or befores and afters, all this stuff. So we kind of sat here for the last hour and just kind of talked about various events we've been to, places we've gone, and it was really tough to think of some of our most memorable ones, because I feel like all of them in some way, shape, or form has been memorable, and has shaped us in some way. Yeah,
formative in some way, yeah.
Yeah, whether it was even if the tournament wasn't great, the hotel was super fun. If we didn't have fun before or after, the tournament was a blast. If, everything. And sometimes it's hard to even go back to the number of events we've been to and really go, which one was that one? Was that the same one as this one? Were they together? Was that one this one? There's so many that we've gone to now, but all of the memories are there. I remember all of these moments. And
the interesting thing about when we're trying to think of the different memories that we have, very few, there is a couple on my list here where it is results oriented, but for the most part, these tournaments, it's not the memory of getting the bronze medal or the memory of getting the silver medal or the gold medal. It's more of all the other stuff that goes on, whether we're talking about the preparation for the tournament sitting ringside with your opponents, and then having this bond with your opponents that now all of a sudden you're friends because you just kicked and punched at each other. So it's all of that stuff, and the hotel fun, all that kind of stuff that kind of stands out more than earning the bronze or silver or gold.
Yeah, so why don't we get started here with some of our most memorable tournaments we've had. Do you want to start?
Sure. Okay. So, there's so many tournaments to draw on. I should have maybe counted how many tournaments I've actually competed in. I don't know. I couldn't even give you a number. So one of them that kind of sticks out to me this was back in early 2000s, and the competition was in Ottawa. So from Lethbridge here to Ottawa is quite the distance to travel. My mom and I flew from Calgary to Ottawa, but on the red-eye flight. So flying all at nighttime. And as soon as
What kind of tournament was this first? Was this a nationals?
It wasn't a nationals. I believe it was the General Choi Cup. And at that tournament, it was the tournament, and then the national team selection was the next day. So that tournament, we were flying overnight, and as soon as we landed at the airport in Ottawa, we went straight to the tournament venue. And then I was competing that day. And so that one is memorable to me because of it just wasn't the normal preparation for me, right? Usually you go the day before and you get to sleep in the hotel and, kind of get planned and ready for the tournament.
So you landed, had to collect your bags, hope that your luggage got there, go to the tournament, and then compete.
That's right. Yeah. And at the time, I think I was black belt. Yeah, because I was trying out for Team Canada. So I was a black belt. And so my competition was later in the day. But it was just very not normal, because usually you get, your priority is getting a good night rest the night before, and that I did not get to have. And I remember just my body not feeling normal for that competition. And so we were talking about it, like, what did I learn from that event? And well, one thing is like how important, your preparation is up until that point. And so getting a good night rest, eating properly, all those things, those definitely I took for granted at previous tournaments. However, even with the not normal preparation for that tournament, I learned that you can dig it out and you can still perform at a high level. It just takes a lot of like mental toughness to actually perform. So I felt like I probably didn't perform, at my very, very best. I did perform at my best for that day with that flight happening in the middle of the night. I did perform at my best. I just didn't feel like that was my peak performance that day. And it was just interesting being in the ring. And I think I took a few kicks to the head in those fights, just because I just felt out of sorts, and I felt like my body just wasn't operating as normal. It was very sleep deprived. So that one sticks out to me as a memorable one on the oh, that kind of sucked. But the next day was the Team Canada selections. And I was feeling much better for then. So, and I still got selected to be on the teams and stuff. So I wasn't too bad, but it was a very interesting experience, getting to a tournament the morning of, halfway across the country.
Jeez. So how did you end up doing?
I don't know. Honestly, I did get medals. I can't recall which ones I got at that tournament.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Holy.
How about you? Tell us one of your favorite tournaments or most memorable tournaments as a competitor.
As a competitor, probably Ireland in 2017. 2017, did we go to Ireland?
Correct.
Yeah. So I remember for that one there, I was only selected for sparring, and it was just an interesting tournament to train for because I didn't have to practice patterns at all. Like I was only going there for sparring. And so as a competitor, that one there, I felt really good with. So the first tournament we had decided to go and stay a little extra time before and after and everything. And I feel like that's a whole story as well, that we'll probably just end up talking about. But for that one there was definitely Ireland. I felt really good with. It was a good experience. It was the World Championships in 2017 in Ireland. I think I had gone 2 rounds for that one, 2 or 3 rounds. And yeah, it was such a different, normally I've always been this like a patterns competitor, or at least always both. Like I've done well in both, but usually patterns has kind of been like the stronger suit. But for whatever reason that year there, my patterns just weren't up to the par to be eligible or, represent Canada. So I got to go there as just sparring. And so it was a very different preparation because I didn't do a pattern for 6 months. Yeah. Like I did them almost more just like for like cool down or fun, but I didn't do any patterns, like none. And so even when we got there, all I was doing was hitting pads, sparring. And so it was fun for me in the sense that like I got to just kind of focus on one thing versus patterns and sparring. And I never really got into the board breaking as a competitor, but like usually I was always preparing for both. And so just being able to just go there, worry about, cutting weight, worry about making weight, worry about sparring, hitting pads, sparring with people. It was just a very different experience that was a lot of fun.
So taking that experience, would you prefer to only compete in one event at big tournaments like that?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Like it's really tough to say. Some people can do, multiple events. I think that does take a special type of competitor. I enjoyed it. Like I really did, because then the following World Championships, I went and did both. And so it was I enjoyed actually just doing one and just specializing in it and just like
being super focused in on just one thing.
Like if I was just going to go and do patterns and all I had to do was not do any sparring, not do any board breaking, just practice just my patterns and make sure the technique was perfect and precise and accurate and my stances and everything was perfect and timed out and everything, would make a huge difference, right? So like, I think there's some advantages to just saying, this is what I'm going to go into. I'm only going to do specialty breaking. I'm only going to do power breaking. I'm not saying that's what you should do. In fact, I think early on, I think there's nothing wrong with doing as many as you can. Like if a tournament is allowing you to do board breaking, do board breaking.
Right.
If a tournament is allowing you to spar, do sparring. If a tournament is allowing you to do patterns, do patterns. If they're allowing you to do prearranged, do it. Team pattern, do it. Like just try all of them and find out which one you're really into. And then maybe from there, narrow it down. Like, you know, then you can decide and say, you know what, I'm a pattern. I never thought of myself as a patterns guy. I always thought of myself as a sparring guy, but I really do well with patterns, or vice versa. Or I never did board breaking in competition. So I feel like, and I can do it well, especially specialty, not so much power, but specialty. I can jump surprisingly high for my height and the length of my legs. Mm-hmm. But I never did it as a competitor. So I never got to say, you know what, maybe I would have been a specialty breaker, but I never got into it, you know, at all. So I kind of like, that's like I wouldn't say a regret, but it's like, oh man, I wish I did that. So if I were to give advice to people and they're like, you know,
try it all.
What should I do?
Yeah.
Well, where are you at in your stage? Oh, I'm a first degree. I'm a junior. Oh, well, if they're going to let you do everything, do everything.
That's right.
You know, and then find out from there. This is what I want to practice for the world championships. So then zero in on that and just go hard.
Yeah. And I feel like as a competitor, there's something wired in my brain that like, I love everything about the competition. And so the more I can be involved in the competition, I will do it, right? If I have the choice to do patterns, sparring, specialty, those are the three that, I mean, I've done team patterns and team sparring and team breaking as well. But any opportunity, like that just meant more time in the ring, more time in the competition. Yeah. And so I was all for doing as much as I could. And there is something to be said about picking one thing and being specialized in that one thing. Mm-hmm. I know early on though, like I just wanted to do anything and everything.
Yeah, because it was just, again,
it was more time on the mat.
And there's something that only few really understand about that. And mm-hmm. until you like compete and you go in there is something that most people don't understand about being on the mats, being in the ring, having the adrenaline, the anxiety, the fear, the nervousness. Mm-hmm. So many people run away from that, and it's like you got to run towards it, because that's how you kind of really figure out exactly who you are and what you're capable of. So yeah.
Back to 2017 Ireland. This one is also kind of memorable for me. We went to this tournament together. And for me, 2017 Ireland was memorable for me in a different way. So coming at you from martial artist, but also as a mom, I had my first child, Ryder, in 2014. Mm-hmm. And then that was kind of the plan. I had Ryder and I knew that Ireland was coming in 2017. So those 3 years, I was very focused on, well, first of all, learning how to be a mom and also figuring out, okay, I got to get to all these tournaments. I got to train for all these tournaments. And that's my goal, is to get to Ireland. So I was able to do that. And so I was really proud of myself just for going through that stage of my life and learning how to be a new mom and trying to figure out how to get back to world level competition at the same time. So that piece in itself, the preparation for myself, is memorable in my mind for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was crazy. Like Ryder was only 3 right? Like
Yeah.
3 turning 4.
No, he was 3.
He was 3.
Yeah.
And not to be like, but is that where we decided like, okay, we want another
Yeah.
child? Like when we were done with the event, like was that when we? Yeah, that was always a fun one too. And again, talking about, and this is part of this show is to talk about not just like the tournaments themselves, but like some of our most memorable moments. But this was the one event where all of our black belts at the school had told us, hey, we got this place while you're gone. Take some time afterwards, because we had gone to several events and seminars and tournaments and everything, and we always went there, came back, went there, came back. We had a new school, so we were a little nervous to really kind of leave it for too long, and new business and everything. And they said, no, stay, have some fun. So we said, great, let's stay. So I think we said 4 or 5 days extra, something like that.
Yeah, a few days. Oh, and Ireland was so memorable too. This just reminded me because we were in Dublin, right? Close to Dublin. And at the time that they were there, that we were there, they were under a big hurricane watch.
Well, that's what happened, right? It was right after the tournament.
Yeah.
We had booked all of these 4 or 5 extra days to go touring and do all of this stuff. And then the entire, either part or the whole country, I can't remember exactly what it was, but where we were supposed to be, where we had all of our hotels and all of these things booked, was closed.
It was all like
Shut
emergency lockdown.
Yeah.
Like no one was out on the streets. So it was so interesting that we finally took a few days after the competition to do our own thing. And then a good 2 days of that, everything was just like shut down. Like we were racing to the store to try and just get some food to have in our hotel. The only thing that was open was the pub in our hotel. And then at one point in the night, the chef or bartender, whoever he was like, yeah, so I'm going to try and get home. So you guys just don't break anything.
Well,
that was basically the end.
Yeah, because we had got there, we got into Dublin, downtown Dublin. We were just going to go and tour downtown. We were going to go to the university and all of these, like cemetery tours and pub crawls and all of this cool stuff. And yeah, we got there and I don't remember. We could have looked it up, but I think Dublin, like downtown Dublin, like I don't know, it's massive. Like I don't know how many people like live there and work there and everything, but it's a massive city.
Yeah,
and
it was ghost town.
It was a ghost town.
Ghost town, like it was weird and
then
eerie.
Yeah, all the pubs that would stay open, it was just like a local that would open it up for you. Just go and be like, oh, we leave whatever denomination of money, but I have 4 beers, we made this and put that on the table. And
Dublin didn't get hit very hard with the hurricane in the end, and so a couple days later everything was back open, back to normal. So we did get to have a day and a half of
crammed in like 3
we
days
did
of touring in a day.
So much in that day to try and just get see a few things. But what a unique experience to go through. So Ireland 2017 definitely hits the top of memorable moments for us as competitors. Any other competitor memories for different tournaments?
Yeah, my first black belt one. First black belt one. I say this because I got my ass kicked so badly. Like it was awful. It was embarrassing. Like
I feel like all black belts have this experience.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And this is the thing is the chances are this is what's going to happen to you is you're a red belt and you're probably kicking some serious ass in the red belt division in whatever category, division, age bracket you're in. And then you get your black belt and then all of a sudden you're competing against, first, second, third degrees, fourth degrees or higher. And they could be, it depending on what age you're in. Like if you're in the seniors, I was still a junior at that time. So I was competing, I think I was 15 and my first opponent was like 17. And so he had at that age, I mean, 2 years is a big difference. And I just remember I had won, not a big event, but I had won as a black stripe at like 2-3 events in a row where I was getting gold silvers, just really doing really well as a like 14, 15-year-old and coming up and then I test for my black belt and I'm feeling really, really good, like almost cocky.
Yeah.
And I remember just showing up and it was an eye opener of the spread of like how much more
there is to learn.
There is to learn. And that was the thing, was like, so many people look at it as like a wall or a hurt, where it's like, well, what's the point? There's more to learn. Like, if anything, like, you hear these people like, oh, I'm going to get my black belt and move on and quit, or like, God, come on, it's pathetic.
And we have talked about this before, is that learning curve, right? And
that was my cycle.
So it's interesting at that age. What age were you when you got your black?
15 or 16, somewhere in there.
Yeah, and so there's two things that are happening at that age. So you got your black belt, which is another like hump that you go through in your learning curve, right? So you start at the bottom, but also with your age, in that age division, you're again at the bottom. So that was kind of what happened to me too. I got my black belt when I was 14. So all of a sudden I'm a black belt and I pop into the higher age division. So you're getting into these two massive new worlds, the new age division and your new black belt division. And it's a lot to take on. And so I feel like that for me too was the same experience. You know, I went into my first black belt competition as 14 years old and just getting my black belt. And I was like, oh dear, like whole new ball game.
And there was so much to it. Cause like, I remember my dad had the school at that time. So like my dad was the head instructor there. And I just remember, because I had been winning, I'm the son of, you know, this school owner, and we had taken some students. So it was myself, my sister, and two other boys. They were my age. We were all the same age. We were good friends. Like, we were friends. We were competitors. They weren't in the same division. They weren't black belts yet. We were just like friends. I think they were red belts. They were like coming up. This would have been their last color belt tournament or something like that. And I just remember they're thinking like, yeah, like, Josh is gonna go in there. There's just so much expectation.
Yeah.
And I just remember like getting annihilated. Like this kid that I thought was really good, and I was really good too, but he just had more ring experience in that caliber, and he was able to just, pick me apart and just pick exactly where he wanted to hit and when he was going to attack and how he was going to attack. And it was hard. And I remember being so afterwards, but it was my ego that was bruised. I was fine. I was totally fine. I remember being so upset and making all of these things. But
excuses,
when I finally was like, you know what? My pride's hurt. I'm fine. And, I came back and eventually, as I progressed through, I became that 17-year-old who was able to, start dominating. And then I went to the adult division, which again was another cycle of things. Because I went through the ups, and then as soon as I was already a black belt, of course, and I had turned 18, going to the adults, another cycle. Well, boom, right back at the bottom. Yeah. Right back at the bottom. And it took me years to figure that division out.
That's right.
So, yeah, my first black belt one. That was a huge one as a competitor. Big one. A big learning curve. Learned a ton. But, it definitely stands out. I still remember the weird part is I still remember some of the techniques he hit me with. Like, I remember him dropping an axe kick. But him chasing me with it.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, bam! And just cranked me. I was like, oh. I remember some of the punches, to the day.
Yeah.
That was cool. Yeah.
So another tournament that I wanted to tell you about was, actually, I can't even tell you which tournament it was. I don't know where it was. If it was Alberta, Saskatchewan, I'm not sure. I don't even remember what belt I was. So those details are all a little bit fuzzy. But the part that I do remember and why it was so memorable for me is that my dad, he competed and he competed as a yellow belt, I believe. And I just remember, my mom was there, of course, and my auntie was there. And I just remember being so proud of my dad in the ring and wow, my dad is doing this. And I just remember being really proud of him. And I wanted to share this story because I see this happening in our school, right? Just at the tournament over the weekend, we had multiple dads competing, their kids competing. And I don't remember when my dad competed, if I said anything to him, I don't know. But now I look back on it and I was really proud of him and I was impressed and I looked up to him and it was just inspiration for me. So to the dads or moms out there that are competing and your kids are competing, like, good on you. And you don't underestimate the impact that you're having on your kids and setting the example that way, because I just remember that was a really memorable moment for me, having my dad in the ring to compete. So
that's pretty cool, because I mean, my dad competed as well, but I had always known him to compete. Like, my dad had a school and he was already a black belt. So yeah, like I think he was probably competing before I was, so like I never really thought of it like that. Like, when you go through it, that's pretty cool.
And my dad didn't start Taekwondo until like we started Taekwondo, right? So it's a little bit different scenarios there, but I just remember being so impressed and proud, and just that it was really neat experience that my dad was competing, I was competing, my brother was competing. It was just a really neat experience to go through.
That's pretty cool. How old were you? Did you say? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
He was a yellow belt, so you guys didn't start together? Did you? Like, you started and then he started?
We started and then my dad started, and then it's all the details of that are really fuzzy. I think he was a yellow belt. I can't remember what belt I was, but I just thought, wow, this is really neat. My dad stepping into the ring. And I remember everyone just cheering for him and, kind of that white, yellow, green belt adult senior men division. And you're just so proud of, that part didn't matter to me. It was just the fact that my dad had the courage to go into the ring. And I just learned so much from that, right? Yeah. I was inspired by that. So, and
it didn't matter. Like, you were so proud, right?
Yeah.
Like, you were so happy. And your dad's like, almost like, they're heroes.
Yeah.
So when you get to see that, it's pretty exciting. So yeah, like, if you're a dad who's thinking like, oh, well, it's not that big of it.
It is
a big deal.
Yeah. It was really neat for me as a kid. So.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
A couple other tournaments that I thought I would mention just as experience as a competitor. There was a tournament that you hosted in Prince George, October 27th, 2012. That tournament, because...
Oh yeah, for those of you that don't know, like, that's where I'm originally from, is Prince George, BC. I ran a school there that my dad had, and then I took over. And then, I hosted that tournament October. Yeah,
that tournament to me was memorable because of the atmosphere, just the environment everyone was there, like, to go hard, but it was also a lot of fun. And I just remember that kind of tournament almost reignited me to fall in love with competition again. Just cause it was so much fun and the atmosphere was just right. And I just remember that piece being really memorable, and all of the, athletes and different schools, like, just hanging out after the tournament, and it was just a lot of fun. So I remember that tournament being really memorable and kind of reigniting me into the tournament world again. So,
because you pretty much steadily, I mean, except for, of course, when we got together and had Ryder in 2014, you were like competing, and then
and there was this lull before 2012 that I didn't compete. I was busy in university and doing all that kind of stuff. So
you were shortly out of school at that point. So I was kind of exploring the tournament world again, and it was that tournament that I was like, man, this is so much fun. Like, I can't believe I haven't done this for a while. So kind of got me back into competing for the next several years after that. So that's cool.
Yeah.
And then after that, cool.
I guess I do have a few more tournaments that are quite memorable for me. I have it was so hard planning what we were going to talk about, because I'm pretty sure I could recount here 50 different tournaments for you and how they were so memorable. So I was trying to squish it down to just a few. Another memorable tournament for me was the first time I attended the Junior World Championships. And this was quite memorable because it was my first World Championships, for one thing. And the location. So the location of this tournament this would have been 2000, was in Pyongyang, North Korea. North Korea. And so that was just a interesting experience to go to and experience that culture and experience the people there, experience the whole travel there, because that's a really long trip, of course. But that whole experience of competition, of the culture, of staying at the hotel. I mean, there was just so much of that tournament that just cannot be replicated in any form or fashion just because of the location of that tournament. We got to see a lot of cool things. We got to compete at the Taekwondo Palace. So just really memorable for that. Now, that was my first World Championships. I was 15 years old and didn't do very well. So there's not a lot of like memory with the actual competition or how the results of that was, because I kind of lost everything that I went in for. And
but you also picked up something from that, because you came back 2 years later.
Yes.
And won World Championships.
That's right. So at that tournament, my eyes were really opened to that level of competition. And whereas, up until that, like, yeah, sure, I had competed at a few international events, smaller international events, and obviously national events. But the level of competition at that competition was just so high and so intricate, and I learned a lot. So even though I lost everything, I watched absolutely everything that I could. And that inspired me. I was like, I want to win this. I remember watching so much and just thinking to myself, like, I'm going to do this. Like, this is what I'm going to do. And yeah.
I feel like we could just talk about just the experience of going to North Korea.
Yeah, it was just
like, forget
unreal.
The tournament. Like, I almost feel like that is a whole thing. Listen, I don't know if you can go to North Korea anymore. Like, I don't even know if it's like we're going to go to, I don't think you can go.
Yeah.
So like when people like when I'm like, I tell people about you going, they like don't believe it. They're like, no, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it did. It was in 2000. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But it happened. You went and just like
whole new world. That's all. That's what I feel like I can say is just a world I'd never been exposed to, especially being 15 years old. It was something brand new for me. And, just trying to be really respectful the whole time that we were there. And
well, yeah, you would have been thrown in jail.
Yeah, it was, I never felt like really.
That's not a joke either. Like
there was guards at the hotel that
guards everywhere. If you didn't bow in certain areas,
you really felt obligated to bow.
Passports were confiscated.
Well, yeah, they ended up like taking our passports at one point, but they were given back. It was just a weird interaction because that doesn't usually happen, right? Like when you go through customs into the States, right? Like you hold on to your passport and you give it to the thing, and it's all in your view that your passport is still there. But then going there and having your like passport taken behind the wall, like, I don't know. It was just interesting. And yeah, having that to bow at certain places, like you just felt obligated to bow because that's part of their culture, and you didn't want to, you wanted to be respectful of their culture. So,
but there was no screwing around.
Yeah.
Like there was, you made sure of everything because there was like it.
Yeah. And it was interesting, like just the hotel setup. There was so many interesting, memorable parts of that.
Wasn't there an issue with like a missing utensil? What happened with that? Like there was like one of the, like, didn't you have I think your mom told me about this. Like we're like, the team was going to be in some serious trouble.
Oh, I don't know. I would have to ask her about that because I don't recall that story. But yeah, there was a few interesting things that happened, and you just
it could have gotten some serious.
And I mean, more than that, like there was food, like the food was so different. And so trying to get used to that. The cool thing about that trip is like after the competition was all done and over with, we did go back to China, and our whole team, like Team Canada, got to go walk on the Great Wall of China. So that was such a cool, like it gives me like kind of goosebumps talking about that. And I should have brought it with me, but we have a picture of us all on the Great Wall. And that's just such a cool experience, because when other time am I going to be on the Great Wall of China, one of the 7 wonders of the world, with Team Canada? Like, it was just so unique.
And you're 15 at this time.
Yeah.
You're 15 years old. And, you know, experiencing those things, like with what else are you going to experience things like this? If it's not for, you know, competition, you know, like I think martial arts, like, you know, when you can go to an event like this, like. And
I think when you're 15 years old, you know, you don't have the same level of maturity that we do now. Yeah. And so I think I really did underappreciate the moments, even though I was excited when I was there and I was soaking it all in. I definitely did. But now looking back, you know, 23 years later, I really do, I cherish those moments that we had, as that team, like Team Canada, was the closest knit Team Canada I've ever been on. And so I'm just so thankful and grateful that I got to go to that experience, you know, and be part of that. And the preparation for that tournament was really cool as well. So, you know, I just appreciate all of that tournament. It's so memorable, that one, for sure.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I agree when you talk about like appreciating where you're at, because I'm going to bring it up later, but like when we went to Ottawa, like, listen, I know it's Ottawa. I know lots of people have been, but Ottawa's pretty cool. Like when you go like walk around in the old buildings and the culture, or not the culture, but like it is different than where we are.
Yeah.
It's totally different.
Yeah.
And I just remember not really appreciating, even when I went to England, and I was a little bit older at that time. I would have been, I can't remember how old I was when I went to England. And I did the same thing. I went there for a tournament, and just really appreciating like how like much history there is. Like, you know, you kind of take it for granted a little bit. But you're right. Like, you soak it in as much as you can, but sometimes you like, oh man.
Yeah.
Like really thinking about where you're at. Yeah. No, that's really cool. I want to just come back on another time and just talk about just North Korea.
Yeah, I'll have to bring that picture of the Great Wall, because just like remembering some of those things just gives me like goosebumps, because, you know, and there's so many other memories from that trip.
Well, yeah, and like we said, we could talk about just like preparing for North Korea.
Yeah,
afterwards, coming back.
Yeah.
Like tons.
Yeah.
Like so much to bring back. Oh my God. So as a coach, like I was kind of thinking about like some of these too. Like there's been the, you know, like my favorite moments as a competitor, you know, your favorite moments as a competitor. And then there's been like, you know, our transition from competition to coaching more, right? Like not there was a period where I was doing both. I was competing and I was coaching, and I kept competing so I could continue to gain the experience to share with others. Like that's really why I kept competing. I did enjoy it. Of course, I loved it. But I really kept up because I wanted to make sure I could continue to learn and grow and develop my skills, so that way I could then give it to other people. As a coach, I've got a couple events. One being 2019 when we went to Germany. You didn't come to this one here. You were supposed to with Ryder, but Rocky was born.
Yeah,
and, Rocky was supposed to come.
Yeah, Rocky was just born. There was, some mistakes happened with the paperwork with Rocky's birth certificate. And
I thought you were going to say mistakes with Rocky.
No. With his birth certificate, there was a whole issue. So anyway, it wasn't going to work out for us to travel with you guys, but yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up going by myself, right? Right. Which was awesome. I don't care what anybody says. It was great. It was freaking awesome. I got to travel by myself. I had no kids. Everybody's back at home. It was awesome. So I talk about just the memory of that alone was super awesome. Oh, you must have missed your family. I didn't miss you guys that much. Listen, I missed you guys, but I survived and you guys did too. But No, for real. Like, it was that was really cool because again, I mean, all jokes aside, it was interesting to travel as now this father who's older, and so when I went and toured at places like I went to Dachau and the site, like it was the Information and Science Technology Museum or whatever. Like I was older at this point here, so like I was able to really appreciate where I was. Like when we talked about like not appreciating where you were, I was able to really just like take in, like I was in Germany, in Munich, and you could still see so much history there, you know, obviously. And then you go to Dachau, where one of the concentration camps were, and everything. It was really wild. But that's a whole thing in there as well. But the actual tournament itself was the World Championships 2019. And that one there, I had gone, but we had brought a competitor, Bryce Gallup. And Bryce Gallup, he was preparing for patterns. He didn't do sparring. And he was one of our young athletes. He was a junior. He went and his patterns were really good. He was a really good competitor. He was instructing for us. We were all really excited for him. He goes in there and he ends up getting bronze. He gets third place. And as a coach, it was wow. Like it was really special because I just remember I wasn't in the like ring side with him. I was in the stands because I was a competitor. I couldn't be his coach. I just got to compete and then I had to go in the stands. There was other coaches for him. I had just gotten to prepare him at the school. That was it. And I just remember being in the stands with his mom. And I remember we were holding hands and we were like shaking and we were just so excited because he would go up and he would win. And we'd be like, oh my God, he's moving on. And then he would go up and he would win. And I just remember we were getting so like, it was such a happy moment. And I remember like we were crying, we were emotional, we were so happy for him. And then being able to go up and watch him get up onto the podium and represent Canada was just it wasn't mine. And it was, but it was cool to be part of and share, like watch him go through it. It was super, I was emotional about it. I was happy for him. It was unbelievable experience.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, we obviously weren't there in Germany with you, but this tournament was also very memorable for me because our second child was just born, and so he was 3 months old and you guys were away, but they were live streaming the competition. And right. So I was watching it all happen live on a screen, and
it was like 8 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
It was like
I don't know what the time difference was, but it was weird to watch it at different times of the day. But yeah, I was watching it live and I was so excited. Like being so many miles away and, oceans separating us, like I could feel the energy and I knew exactly what you guys were going through because I was experiencing it at the kitchen table. Yeah. And I was just so pumped up about it. And, like getting goosebumps, even just talking about it again.
Oh yeah.
Like I just get goosebumps thinking about that because I know how exciting that moment was for you, for Bryce. Like I just get so excited.
Oh yeah.
Thinking about what he was all going through in that moment. Like what an incredible experience for him.
Yeah, it was. And it was definitely like a highlight for it. Like even when I just look at some of the pictures, it's almost just like I just can go right back and be like, oh man, that was so cool. Like he did so well and we were all so proud of him. And
I remember like crying at the kitchen table all by myself because it was just so exciting. And I was just there at the kitchen table by myself and I kind of felt sad that I wasn't there to be in the celebration with all of you guys, but I was just so happy in that moment and so excited for all of you that were there.
That was a big one. That was really cool. And it's exciting because it just makes me think like, it gets me excited for the future athletes, you know, like coming up. Like we've got some talent here that, you know, like they want to get prepared and they want to get ready. And it makes me excited for them. You know, like they got a journey ahead of them. They've got, you know, some hurdles and things that they've got to go through, but it makes me excited for them. Like it doesn't, yeah, it's really cool. Do you have anything else that you want to go through? As
a coach or leader, one of the tournaments, I can't remember which tournament it was in Regina. And this is more just in memory of our family, but Ryder, I can't even remember if he competed in that tournament. He might have still been too young, but he had so much fun just being in that environment and playing. And if those of you were there, you will know which one was Ryder. He was the one dressed as a dinosaur doing the laps around the gym. And that it's kind of a cute memory, but I remember he was 3 or 4. Yeah, so I don't think he was competing yet, but just seeing him in that environment and having so much fun and just being around the people and him doing laps after laps after laps around that track with his dinosaur. I was just so excited for him because I knew how much fun he was having and I knew how much fun the tournaments had in store for him as he got older, because he was already doing Taekwondo at that time, but he wasn't competing yet because he was too young. But I knew that this was going to be an awesome space for him and was excited for his competition.
Well, yeah. And even just like, it was cool just because like all of the people there too, like they knew who he was. They were like, oh, you know, like we had, you know, 100 of these other, you know, moms and dads all like, you know, oh, you know, hey, we just saw Ryder. He's over there. Where's Ryder? You guys see it? Like, I mean, he was easy to spot, but I mean, it was just cool that like,
it's just that community of people that, you know, everyone we're maybe from different schools, but we're all there for the love of Taekwondo and the art of Taekwondo. But for more than anything is that community, like that sense of belonging. And I knew just seeing that all go down, like this is the community that I want Ryder to experience. One of the communities that I want him to experience because it is so supportive and positive. And yeah, I was just so happy for him to be there and experience it the way that he did. So yeah, it's fun. Then another one as a coach would have been the March 9th, I think it was, of 2020, when that tournament was in Calgary. And that one I felt like was really neat as well, because I felt like the team that we brought from Champion to that tournament was pretty tight and like everyone was like so excited for that tournament. And I guess that one sticks out as memorable, right? Because the pandemic was just starting at that point. And then, you know, days after that tournament, you know, our world changed. Yeah. And, but that tournament itself, it was a big tournament and our team from Champion was just so awesome. And I just remember, just having a lot of fun at that tournament. And I didn't compete at that tournament. Well, no, I didn't. So that was kind of one of my first experiences, like truly being there as a coach. So it was one of the first times that I entered the competition space like that. So it was a neat experience for me.
Yeah.
And just being able to watch students compete and experience what they are going to experience. So,
well, I like that one too, because Ryder was like that was actually on one of my other ones as a coach. Like, this is going to sound weird, but one of my favorite moments as a coach, and I mean, there's many, but like one of my favorite ones was as coach / dads. You know, was when Ryder lost a tournament, and like. It was cool to see him react. I can't remember. I want to say we were in Regina. I don't think won in patterns. I can't remember. He didn't do as good as he wanted to do. I mean, you know, he didn't medal, I think, in something. I think he did okay in sparring, but ended up losing out in the last round. Yeah, he was a little disappointed. He was bummed out. Like he was wanting to get 2 golds and he didn't get them at all. So I just remember afterwards, he was like, I said, oh, how do you feel? And he goes, I'm getting gold at the next one. And I was like, okay. He goes, I'm getting 2 golds at the next tournament. That's it. And I was like, okay. It was just, it's like cute, and it's because he was a little dude. I mean, he's just a little guy. And I was like, oh, good for him. Like he has this goal, and he wants to do it. So I remember I said, what are you going to do to do it? He goes, well, I'm going to practice, I'm going to train every day. I'm going to do this and this. Okay. And he did. And it was Regina. Or no, sorry. Calgary. It was Regina. It was Calgary. That one there. He came back. He got 2 golds.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to see him just, go, you know what? No, I want to get this. I'm going to get it. And then get it.
Yeah, it's definitely a proud moment, because sometimes you can have a competitor, lose, like similar to Ryder, and not do as well, as in like get medals at the tournament, and they go the opposite way. They give up. So that Ryder going through that experience was really, we were proud parents, I think, to see him lose and then come out of it saying like, well, I got to get to work, because like, I want to get more medals. Okay, well, let's do that then.
It just made me appreciate his work ethic.
Yeah.
Like as like such a young man, where I was like, man, like that is.
I actually had that on my list of memorable tournaments, was, I guess because it was so recent, is that this past weekend at provincials, to see Ryder's hard work in action. So, this was several weeks ago before provincials, and I remember talking with Ryder and saying like, hey, okay, so tournament's coming up, yeah, like what's our goal, like what are we going to do? And he said, I want to get gold in patterns. And I said, okay, so what is that going to take? And we talked, and just through our competition prep class, we always say like, gotta practice your pattern every single day, 10 times a day, no matter what. And of course, sometimes we're going to, the ones that are serious about that are going to do 10 times a day. The ones that are not so serious are not going to do that 10 times a day. And what I noticed with Ryder, and I had that conversation with Ryder, was like, do you want me to help you do those 10 times a day? Do you want me to remind you? Like, how are we going to make this work? And yeah, it was just really cool that he was taking on some responsibility to do that. And he practiced a lot on his own. Here at the dojang, we're here a lot, but he would go down and practice before his class.
Yeah, it was like, so having him go down and before his class, he'd go down and just practice on his own. It was cool to see that, like I said, just that work ethic that he has, and it comes from like the example, like that we try to set, like when, like we train and we practice, and we do it with them, but we involve them with it. So that way they can, hopefully, take that and
Yeah, it was just really neat for him to decide several weeks before provincials that, he had this goal. He wanted gold in patterns. We discussed the plan of how he was going to prepare for that, and he stuck to it. And, there were times where I asked, did you practice your pattern? Do you need to go take your few minutes right now to go practice? And he would. There was no, because he was committed to that, right? Yep. He was committed to the preparation, and that was really cool to see. And then to have that hard work pay off with the gold medal in patterns was just awesome. However, knowing that, having that loss before, I knew that even if he didn't get that gold at this provincials, he would have been like, well, just got to work harder, or got to work smarter, or got to figure out what I need to do in order to
nationals coming up.
Yeah.
Get ready. Yeah. Get ready.
Oh, I know I mentioned this at the beginning, but like seeing the champions come back into the dojang, because lots of these, lots of our competitors are just now going to get ready for nationals, which Ryder is one of those. Again, last night, Ryder was down in the dojang early for his class, half an hour early for his class, already practicing all over again. So I know he is on his way to like understanding the commitment and the hard work that goes into achieving goals.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you have any other memorable
I do have one more. Well, I guess we kind of skipped over some of the ones that I'd written down, but the last memorable tournament was the Westerns in November that we hosted here in Lethbridge. So that was memorable in all kinds of ways. It was really cool working with our team here, like Miss Merritt, a bunch of parent volunteers. It was just a really cool experiencing all of that side of things, as that was a big event to put on. But also lots of the things that we've talked about just today about the memories of the tournament that's what we highlighted at our tournament. So the things about having fun, making friendships, making memories, the community, that's what we centered our tournament around and made sure that there were opportunities for all the students, all the competitors to do those things.
That's right.
So that was really memorable because all the awesome things of the tournaments that we experienced, we just made that the forefront and the focus of Westerns. So that one was memorable in so many ways, but more than anything, just that we were able to create this experience focused on the fun, the memories, the friendships, and the community.
That was cool. That was cool. It was, I think, listen, we obviously, we were consumed with the work and a lot of the stuff going on with it. So there was moments where now I think, being older now, I can kind of stop and appreciate all of it during, right? But it was really not until we went to the provincials where we had tons of people come up to us and they were like, hey, we just want to let you know we had so much fun at Westerns.
Yeah.
And that was really, it was...
Because the day of that tournament of Westerns, you don't get time to understand and get the feedback.
And they can't, we're up at a head table or we're down in the rings or we're down in the pit. We're going here and there, going around everywhere. And we don't always get that chance to talk to some of the people. They get a quick handshake in. Thanks for coming, with the parents. But at provincials, at the last one, I had a ton that, were not our students. All they knew was, the guy who gave an opening ceremony speech, and they came up and they were like, hey, we just want to let you know we had such a great time at Westerns. And I was like, oh,
yeah,
thank you. I appreciate that.
I love that because that was a big goal of our tournament, is that it was memorable. Yeah. They had a lot of fun. They made those friendships and just really got to experience the Taekwondo community. Yes. So I'm glad that there were lots of people coming up to you and saying that, just because we know that, we did host a really great event, but more than that, getting that kind of feedback is that we really achieved our objective there.
And that's just it. That's what we wanted. When we thought about what we wanted it centered around, it was memories, family, community, all of that. And so being able to have all of those and people talk about it afterwards, was great. And they did. They said, we liked how you had this thing off in the corner for the kids over here. We liked how you had this board breaking event. We liked how you had, the pro shop. Come on. It was there was so many things that people were, it didn't matter that they were waiting for their kids to compete. Cause that's always sometimes the hard part. Oh my goodness, we got till, bow-ins happen at this time. We got to be there for it. But my kid doesn't compete till 1. A lot of stuff to do in that time, but we had a ton of things for them to do, participate in, and make the memories.
Oh man, and behind the scenes, just working with everybody to create that event. If you know, I remembered the printer cable on that day. So that was awesome. That was a funny little thing with that. But yeah, what a great experience working with so many people to make that event happen. And what a great example of teamwork really does make the dream work. And yeah, we were just talking about this yesterday too, is that we honestly have the best team in the entire planet at Champion Taekwondo. Yeah. I can't even describe a better team.
That's right.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I think we could talk about tournaments for an entire day, because there's a couple. I'm looking down at my notes here. I didn't even talk about Puerto Rico tournament for me, which was a huge one. That's when I won the world championships. I didn't get to talk about our Vancouver tournament. That was Pan Americans in Vancouver?
Or no, that was North America.
North Americans.
North Americans in...
Yeah, so North Americans in
2015,
Vancouver, 2015 or 16. That was a huge tournament as well. And so much fun at that tournament. Yeah. For me, it was... I just trained, I mean, that was coming off having Ryder. So just trained really hard for that tournament and had a really good experience there with Miss Hallowell. She was competing at that tournament as well. So just really awesome experience that we didn't really get to get into. But
should we do part two?
Maybe we'll have to do part two. Yeah. Because... yeah, there's so much. Many events and so many cool experiences. And we were only talking about tournaments.
I know.
We weren't talking about the different seminars or courses or things like that we've been able to go to. Yeah. So.
And that's, like I still got even just.
Yeah, your Pan Ams in Argentina.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that was a cool experience.
Forgot about that one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's lots here so that we can definitely, I think do a part two.
Okay.
So, all right. Well.
Deal.
Anyway, there is part one. We've already established we're going to do a 2-part on this one here. There's part one of some of our most favorite events or memories at tournaments. So look forward for part two. We're going to go through some of these here and I think record another one here so that way we can get 2 parts to it, because there's too much to go through. Too many fun memories on this one as well. So anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching or listening to this. Please leave a comment, leave a review, share this episode with somebody who might get some value out of it. Share it with your kids so that way they can understand, some of the memories that they could have by going to these events. And if you yourself have a tournament or event you've been to, you have a story that you would like to share, leave it in the comments below. We would love to hear about it. Anyway, my name is Josh Dumoulin. This is
Nicole Stratichuk.
And you've been listening to or watching Off the Mat.
Thanks, guys.